pray for someone but notice that nothing ever changes? Years ago, I was praying for my dad. He was a really heavy drinker. He was verbally abusive. He was very depressed. And I was always praying for him. However, every chance I got, I was complaining about him. I was running into people. I was saying how bad he was, how horrible it was, how he was just never going to change his ways. But then I'd go and I'd pray for him again. I'd ask God to change him, make him a better person. There I'd go, talking bad about him again. And I know I'm not the only one who's ever done something like this. I'm not the only one who's ever prayed for someone, but then yet talked bad about them at the same time. Well, there's a scripture I'd ran into years ago that totally changed this. It's James chapter 3, and I want to read to you verses 9 through 12. It says, "With it," meaning our tongue, "we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceed blessings and cursings. My brethren, these things ought not to be. Does a spring send forth fresh water and bitter water from the same opening? Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs? Thus no spring yields salt water and fresh." When I'd heard this scripture years ago, it was an eye-opener. It convicted me, and I started praying for my dad, and I stopped grumbling and complaining about him and telling people that things would never change and how horrible it was. And I began to see things change. It wasn't much longer that I read this scripture and I only started praying that he gave his life to Christ. He was born again. He stopped drinking. He was a happy person, so fun to be around. And I know that because I'm not the only person who's ever struggled with something like this or done this, that I can help someone else with these scriptures. That we need to be able to watch what we're saying. If we're going to pray for someone, we need to be standing in faith, believing in God, that God's going to work this miracle. And we've got to watch the cursing from our mouth. We've got to watch the negative that we say. So if you're out there and you are praying for someone and not seeing any changes, just examine your heart and see if you're also maybe cursing or grumbling or complaining or saying bad things or just losing your faith as you're talking about that same person. Remember this scripture, and I pray that whoever it is that you are praying for, that you begin to see things change as you stand in faith, believing in God.